Hello, this is Lucas Spurlock. He is a supporter of mine on Maker Support, and he has something to promote. He would like me to pimp his Twitter. Joseph Joestar, at Joseph Joestar, Joseph Joestar Purple. Check him out. He does art. He provided for the show this wonderful piece of fan art. And yeah, he does a lot of like really weird, trippy stuff. Like it's very psychedelic. Like, it's the type of stuff that I would imagine stoners would have like blacklight posters of in their fucking rooms. It's cool stuff. I like it. You know? But yeah, so check him out at Joseph Joestar. Yeah, right. At Joseph Joestar. Yeah, there you go. Thank you for your support.
Jordan Peterson, you've said that men need to, quote, grow the hell up. Tell me why.
Well, because there's nothing uglier than an old infant.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Jordan Peterson interview.
There's nothing good about it. People who don't grow up don't find the sort of meaning in their life that sustains them through difficult times, and they're certain to encounter difficult times. And they're left bitter and resentful and without purpose and adrift and hostile and resentful and vengeful and arrogant and deceitful and of no use to themselves and of no use to anyone else and no partner for a woman, and there's nothing in it that's good.
So you say, I mean, that sounds pretty bad. You're saying
It's
there's a
bad.
crisis of masculinity? I mean, what do you do about it?
Alright. So this is my first big problem with the new wave of feminism, right? Y'all think there's a problem with being men, with a crisis of masculinity, and all that other horse shit. We were just fine, being just like we were. There wasn't any problem with being a man until you guys decided there was a problem with being a man. We were happy and fine the way we were. It's not a crisis of masculinity, it's a crisis of femininity. It's confusing to grow up being told you need to be more like your sister. It's fucking weird to us. Doesn't make sense. Because it doesn't make sense.
You help people understand why it's necessary and important for them to grow up and adopt responsibility. Why that isn't a shake your finger and get your act together sort of thing. Why it's more like a delineation of the kind of destiny that makes life worth living. I've been telling young men, but it's not, I wasn't specifically aiming this message at young men to begin with. It just kind of turned out that way.
And it's mostly, you admit, it's mostly men listening. I mean,
it
90% of your audiences are men,
well, it's
right?
about 80% on YouTube, which is YouTube is a male domain primarily. So it's hard to tell how much of it is because YouTube is male and how much of it is because of what I'm saying.
You hear that, ladies? It's YouTube. Some man shit.
But what I've been telling young men is that there's an actual reason why they need to grow up, which is that they have something to offer. You know, that people have within them this capacity to set the world straight, and that's necessary to manifest in the world, and that also doing so is where you find the meaning that sustains you in life.
Oh my God. Like Logan Paul.
So what's gone wrong then?
Oh God, all sorts of things have gone wrong. I don't think that young men hear words of encouragement. Some of them never in their entire lives, as far as I can tell. That's what they tell me.
I will say that. I mean, my parents encouraged me by kind of giving me free rein. And they would tell me, you know, inappropriate times and that kind of stuff, doing a good job, stuff like that. But like, I was never really pushed to really do anything, I never really got that from anybody. Not from anybody. Nobody ever really pushed me to do anything. So I never really developed that trait. I don't know. And I don't think it was a failing on my parents' part or anything like that. Dad, if you're watching. But I don't know. I think it was cool that I was allowed to kind of dip my toes in whatever waters I wished. Maybe I couldn't, I shouldn't have been as indulged as I was, but, I was never really pushed to stick with anything. Like, whenever I decided I didn't want to do something anymore, like, I wanted to take karate. I took karate for, I don't even think it was a year. Might have been a year. I don't know. Then I just didn't want to do karate anymore. And I wanted to play guitar. And I think I went to 3 lessons. And I didn't want to play guitar anymore. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. And I've continued that trend throughout my life. I have an ocarina sitting over there that I fully intend to never actually learn how to play. But I thought it would be cool to learn. Yeah. Never really, I don't know. Maybe not so much encouragement, but never really pushed. Never forced to be driven. Yeah. That's more kind of like where I sit with it.
And the fact that the words that I've been speaking, the YouTube lectures that I've done and put online, for example, have had such a dramatic impact is an indication that young men are starving for this sort of message, because like, why in the world would they have to derive it from a lecture on YouTube? They're not being taught that it's important to develop yourself.
I will agree with that. We're not really told that. It's all kind of just, I don't know. It all seems so hands off. You know what I mean? Like, girls nowadays, they're pushed to do and achieve and break the glass ceiling and all that stuff. And guys aren't really fucking given any of that shit. We're not really told to succeed or that sort of thing. We're just kind of there. That's the way it feels to me.
But does it bother you that your audience is predominantly male? Isn't that a bit divisive?
What difference does it make? Like, honestly, I don't see what difference it even makes. If his audience is mostly men and he's teaching people to become better people, well, okay, that's cool. What if his audience was mostly women and he was teaching them to become better people? Would it matter? I don't really think so.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's no more divisive than the fact that YouTube is primarily male and Tumblr is primarily female.
Isn't it?
Tumblr is primarily female.
But you're just saying that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Well, I'm not saying anything. It's just an observation that that's the way it is. There's plenty of women that are watching my lectures and coming to my talks and buying my books. It's just that the majority of them happen to be men.
What's in it for the women, though?
Why does there always have to be something in it for you?
Well, what sort of partner do you want? Do you want an overgrown child? Or do you want someone to contend with that's going to help you and that you can rely on?
Women have some sort of duty to sort of help fix the crisis of masculinity.
We were just fine until you all said we were bad.
It depends on what they want. I mean, it's exactly how I laid it out. Like, women deeply want men who are competent and powerful.
Teresa O'Neill used to say that. He used to say that women want to be with a winner. No girl wants to be at a party going, you see that guy over there, that fucking loser? That's my dude. No. Women don't want losers. That's kind of a fundamental truth of life.
And I don't mean power in that they can exert tyrannical control over others. That's not power. That's just corruption. Power is competence. And why in the world would you not want a competent partner? Well, I know why, actually. you can't dominate a competent partner.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
So if you want
women
domination,
want to dominate, is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, fuck yeah, that's what women want. Wait, what is the discussion you're even having?
no, I'd say women who have had their relationships impaired, their relationships with men impaired, and who are afraid of such relationships will settle for a weak partner because they can dominate them. But it's a suboptimal solution.
Do you think that's what a lot of women are doing?
Yeah, I think that's what most women are doing. I think a fucking fair portion of women, that's exactly what they're doing. That's why there's so many men not wanting to date women anymore. MGTOW.
I think there's a substantial minority of women who do that.
All right, fine. Like 49.9% can still count as a substantial minority. Let's be fucking honest here.
And I think it's very bad for them. They're very unhappy. It's very bad for their partners, although the partners get the advantage of not having to take any responsibility.
And I did that once. I was in a relationship where I was totally not the dominant one socially. It was awesome. It was so cool. Like, I didn't have to fucking think about anything. I had to do nothing. It was never my fault because I didn't do it. Dude, it was pretty cool. I did enjoy that. That was fun.
But what gives you the right to say that? I mean, maybe that's how women want their relationships, those women. I mean, you're making these vast generalizations.
I'm a clinical psychologist.
Best answer he gives the entire fucking interview. Some women want to be like that. What do you think of that? I'm a clinical psychologist.
Right, so you're saying you've done your research and women are unhappy dominating men.
Yeah. Because no woman wants to be with that fucking loser over there.
I didn't say they were unhappy dominating men. I said it was a bad long-term solution.
Okay, you said it was making them miserable.
Thing. Yes, it is. And it depends on the time frame. I mean, there's intense pleasure in momentary domination.
There is.
That's why people do it all the time. But it's no formula for a successful long-term relationship. That's reciprocal.
It's not.
Right? Any long-term relationship is reciprocal, virtually by definition. So.
That's true. In fact, generally, the reasons why relationships between me and most of the women I've been with have ended is because it was no longer reciprocal anymore. I was giving a lot, and they were taking, and that's not the way it works.
Let me put a quote to you from the book, where you say, there are whole disciplines in universities forthrightly hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern neo-Marxist claim that Western culture in particular is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women. But then I want to put
minorities too, dominate and exclude.
Okay, sure.
Minorities too. I mean, let's include everybody, shall we?
But I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
I guess it would seem that way on paper, if that was the only data you presented.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
But that's just not true, is it?
That's
I mean, that
absolutely
9% pay gap, that's a gap between median hourly earnings between men and women.
But there's
that exists.
Yeah, but there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like if you're a social scientist worth your salt, you never do a univariate analysis. Like you say, well, women in aggregate are paid less than men. Okay, well, then we break it down by age, we break it down by occupation, we break it down by interest, we break it down by personality.
But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top, because that's what's skewing that gender pay gap, isn't it?
Well, I mean, she does that a lot. What you're saying is, and so you're saying she does it a lot. And that's one of the ways that they have to argue, like they have to argue that way. You said something reasonable and common sense like, So what you're saying is something completely unreasonable and ridiculous. Like that, you have to counter with that, because that's really all you got, misrepresentation.
You're saying, well, that's just a fact of life. Women aren't necessarily going to get to the top.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying
I'm
it's
saying
a fact
there are
of
multiple
life.
reasons for it.
Yeah, but those reasons, why should women put up with those reasons?
Yeah, man, that fucking question didn't make a goddamn bit of sense to me either.
Why should women be content
I'm not
not
saying
to
that
get
they
to the
should
top?
put up with it. I'm saying that the claim that the wage gap between men and women is only due to sex is wrong. And it is wrong. There's no doubt about that. The multivariate analysis have been done. So I can give you an example.
You keep on talking about multivariate analysis.
Let me give you an example.
I'm saying that 9% pay gap exists.
Yeah.
That's a gap between men and women. I'm not saying why it exists, but it exists.
But you are saying why it exists. You're saying because men and women. You're saying exactly why it exists. You're just not saying all the reasons. And that's the problem.
Now, if you're a woman, that seems pretty unfair.
You have to say why it exists.
But do you agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman...
Not necessarily.
And on average, you're getting paid 9% less than a man. That's not fair, is it?
If you're in that average section, probably not, no, but it's an average. Like, not everybody's going to be in the average.
It depends on why it's happening. I can give you an example. Okay. There's a personality trait known as agreeableness.
Now, I gotta admit, there was a million different ways I thought he was gonna go. Agreeableness was not the way I thought he was gonna go. But it's very cool that he went there.
Agreeable people are compassionate and polite. And agreeable people get paid less than less agreeable people for the same job. Women are more agreeable than men.
Again, a vast generalization. Some women are not more agreeable than men.
Yes, that's true, but that's right. And some women get paid more than men.
Yeah, see?
So you were saying that by and large, women are too agreeable to get the pay rises they deserve.
No, I'm saying that that's one component of a multivariate equation that predicts salary. It accounts for maybe 5% of the variance, something like that.
So surely
you
the
need
answer...
you need about another 18 factors, one of which is gender. And there is prejudice, there's no doubt about that, but it accounts for a much smaller proportion of the variance in the pay gap than the radical feminists claim.
Okay, so rather than denying the pay gap exists, which is what you did at the beginning of this conversation, shouldn't you say to women, rather than being agreeable and not asking for a pay rise, go and ask for a pay rise? Make yourself disagreeable with your boss.
Oh, definitely, there's that. But I also didn't deny it existed. I denied it existed because of gender.
Okay.
See, because I'm very, very, very careful with my words.
Man, I need to learn how to do that more. I need to learn how to be more careful with my words.
So the pay gap exists, you accept that, but you're saying, I mean, the pay gap between men and women exists, but you're saying it's not because of gender, it's because women are too agreeable to ask for pay rises.
Like, why does it always have to be one thing? What? It's a mix of a bunch of shit. That's what he's been saying this whole time. How you turn it into, oh, instead of it being just this one thing, it's this other just one thing. No! It's a bunch of shit!
So it's one of the reasons.
Okay, one of the reasons. So why not get them to ask for a pay rise?
I've done that many, many times in my career.
And they just
I've counseled. Oh, they do it all the time. So one of the things that you do as a clinical psychologist is assertiveness training. So you might say, often you treat people for anxiety, you treat them for depression, and maybe the next most common category after that would be assertiveness training. And so I've had many, many women, extraordinarily competent women in my clinical and consulting practice, and we've put together strategies for their career development that involve continual pushing, competing for higher wages, and often tripled their wages within a 5-year period.
God damn. Dude, I need to fucking hire him. Shit.
Teaching them how to negotiate. That. Of course.
Why the fuck wouldn't you triple the wages? God damn.
So, do you agree that you would be happy if that pay gap was eliminated completely? Because that's all the radical feminists are saying.
It would depend on how it was eradicated and how the how the disappearance of it was measured.
And you're saying if
You
it's at the
can't- you
cost
can't-
of men, that's a problem.
No. There's a bunch of shit.
Oh, there's all sorts of things that it could be at the cost of. It could even be at the cost of women's own interests. So,
Because they might not be happy if they get equal pay.
No, they might not be happy if they're pushed into some science field because you want to quota met. And they don't want to do that. They want to do something else. They make movies about this shit. Isn't that what fucking... Was it the Hunger Games? No, it was that Divergent shit. That fucking old movie franchise was about that shit. Ugh.
no, because it might interfere with other things that are causing the pay gap that women are choosing to do.
Like having children.
Well, or choosing careers that actually happen to be paid less, which women do a lot of.
But why shouldn't women have the right to choose not to have children or the right to choose those demanding careers?
They do. They can.
Yeah, who the fuck ever said that? Where the fuck is she getting this?
Yeah, that's fine.
But you're saying that makes them unhappy, by and large.
What?
I'm saying that no, I'm not saying that. I actually haven't said that so far.
You're
in the
saying
program.
it makes them miserable.
No, I
at the
said that
beginning.
what was making them miserable was having weak partners.
Gotcha, bitch!
That makes them miserable.
Right.
Yeah, caught you. A little fast one you tried to pull. Yeah. I don't even think she thought of it. I don't even think she did it purposefully. I think she just fucking... She hears him say things, and that's just his fucking opinion about everything she wants to ask him about. It's very, very fucking weird.
I would say that many women around the age of, I would say between 28 and 32, have a career family crisis that they have to deal with. And I think that's partly because of the foreshortened time frame that women have to contend with. Like, women have to get the major pieces of their life put together faster than men, which is also partly why men aren't under so much pressure to grow up. So because for the typical woman, she has to have her career and family in order pretty much by the time she's 35.
See? And that's why we used to marry you guys off when you were young and make sure that you stayed at home and bared children. Because it's what we needed you to do. And it took a lot of pressure off you. You guys didn't have to worry about career and all that stuff. You just sit at home all day and take care of the kids. I'd rather do that. Shit.
Because otherwise the options start to run out. And so that puts a tremendous amount of stress on women, especially at the end of their 20s.
I think I take issue with the idea of the typical woman because, you know, all women are different. And that's what I want to just put another quote to you from the book.
Well,
you
they're different in some ways and the same in others.
Yeah, so that's why we talk about the typical woman, because we understand that there's variation, but typically...
Okay, you say women become more vulnerable when they have children.
Oh, yes.
And you talked in one of your YouTube interviews about crazy harpy sisters. So, simple question. Is gender equality a myth in your view? Is that something that's just never going to happen?
It depends on what you mean by equality. You know,
Being
if
treated
you mean that
fairly,
men and women
getting
are
the same opportunities?
fairly, we could get to a point where people were treated fairly or more fairly.
Yeah, I think we could get to there too, but I think it would have to be, at this point, like it comes down to personal choice at this point, you know. I think we're pretty much there. It's personal choice at this point.
I mean, people are treated pretty fairly in Western culture already, but we can
But they're
improve
really
that.
not, though, are they? I mean, otherwise,
Well, it
why
depends.
would there only be 7 women running FTSE 100 companies in the UK? Why would there still be a pay gap, which we've
Oh, well,
discussed
that's
at length?
easy.
See, she says that almost like she won that fucking argument. You discussed it at length, and you found out it's fucking not there because of the reason you're saying it's there. So why you keep bringing it up?
Easy
Why are
answer
women
that
at the
question.
BBC saying that they're getting paid illegally less than men to do the same job?
Well, let's-
That's not fair,
Well,
is
let's
it?
go to the first question. Those are complicated questions. Seven women. Repeat that one. There's
7
only
women running the top FTSE 100 companies in the UK.
Okay. Well, the
I mean,
first
that's not
question
fair.
might be, why would you want to do that?
Yeah, no shit. Why the fuck would you want to do that?
Why would a man want to do it?
Fuck if I ever understand.
I mean, there's a lot of money.
there's
It's
a
an
certain-
interesting
There's a
job.
certain
You know?
number of men, although not that many, who are perfectly willing to sacrifice virtually all of their life to the pursuit of a high-end career.
Fuck that.
So they'll work. These are men that are very intelligent.
Check.
They're usually very, very conscientious.
Check.
They're very driven.
Not so much.
They're very high energy.
Not at all.
They're very healthy.
Probably not.
And they're willing to work 70 or 80 hours a week, nonstop, specialized at one thing to get to the top.
Fuck that.
So you're saying women are just more sensible. They don't want that because it's not a nice life.
I'm saying that's part of it, definitely. And so I work
So you don't think there are barriers in their way that prevent them getting to the top of those companies?
Oh, there are some barriers, yeah. Like men, for example. I mean, to get to the top of any organization is an incredibly competitive enterprise. And the men that you're competing with are simply not going to roll over and say, please take the position.
So let me come back to my question.
It's absolute all-out warfare.
Is gender equality a myth?
Yes. We're not equal. Because we're people. There are some things that some people are going to do better than other people. And there are some things that other people are going to do better than other people. Gender has very little to do with it. But we're not equal. Like, we're all not equal to each other. However that works out in your head, there it is. There's always something somebody's going to be better at than somebody else. There's always a bigger fish.
I don't know what you mean by the question. Men and women aren't the same, and they won't be the same. That doesn't mean they can't be treated fairly.
Yeah, and it's cool that we're not the same. It's interesting. It adds some spice to life. Makes things more interesting. Because there can be competition. And you can work to better yourself. If everybody's the same, then there's no point to better yourself. You're not, you know, especially if you're forcing everybody to be the same, then there's really no point to better yourself. And what happens? The bar gets lowered. Lower and lower and lower, year and year and year.
Is gender equality desirable?
If it means equality of outcome, then almost certainly it's undesirable. That's already been demonstrated in Scandinavia. Because in Scandinavia...
What do you mean by that? Equality of outcome is undesirable?
Well, men and women won't sort themselves into the same categories if you leave them alone to do it off their own accord. We've already seen that in Scandinavia. It's 20 to 1 female nurses to male, something like that. It might not be quite that extreme. And approximately the same male engineers to female engineers. And that's a consequence of the free choice of men and women in the societies that have gone farther than any other societies to make gender equality the purpose of the law. Those are ineradicable differences. You can eradicate them with tremendous social pressure and tyranny, but if you leave men and women to make their own choices, you will not get equal outcomes.
Right.
Yes. Absolutely true in every way. Some girls really do like pink. Some boys do too. They're fucking gay.
So you're saying that anyone who believes in equality, whether you call them feminists, call them whatever you want to call them, should basically give up because it ain't going to happen?
Only if they're aiming at equality of outcome.
So you're saying give...
What I'm really saying is I do like pink too. It was just a joke. God damn it.
People equality of opportunity, that's fine.
It's not only fine, it's eminently desirable for everyone, for individuals and for society.
But still women aren't going to make it. That's what you're really saying.
Yes. Ladies, if left to your own devices, you're not going to make it.
Depends on your measurement techniques. They're doing just fine in medicine. In fact, there are far more female physicians than there are male physicians. There are lots of disciplines that are absolutely dominated by women. Many, many disciplines. And they're doing great. So...
Let me put something else to you from the book.
Yeah, let's move on from here because that's getting bad.
You say the introduction of the equal pay for equal work argument immediately complicates even salary comparison beyond practicality for one simple reason. Who decides what work is equal? It's not possible. So the simple question is, do you believe in equal pay?
That's where you went. Of all the places. Of all the follow-up questions. Or leading question, whatever the fuck. Of all the things you could ask that man, after reading that, you went with, so do you believe that the equal pay can exist? Not, is there no way we could possibly measure equal amounts of work? I mean, on paper you can measure equal amounts of work. I would have much rather heard that fucking answer. God damn it.
Well, I made the argument there. It's like it depends on
So
who
you don't
defines
believe
it.
in equal pay?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
I can't believe she whiffed that amazing question to go in with a "so you don't believe in equal pay" dig. Oh, fucking ugh.
Because a lot of people listening to you will just say, I mean, are we going back to the dark
That's because
ages
they're actually
here?
not listening.
I'm
They're just
listening very
projecting
carefully,
what
and
they
I'm
think.
hearing you basically saying women need to just accept they're never going to make it on equal terms, equal outcomes is how you defined it.
Dude, he just said people aren't listening. And then she talked over him as he said they're just projecting their own ideas on things. And then she did exactly that.
No, I didn't
If I
say
was
that.
a young
said
woman
that equal...
watching that, I would go, well, I might as well just go and play with my Cindy dolls and give
didn't
up
say
trying
that.
at school because I'm not going to get the top job I want because
said
there's
that
someone sitting there saying it's not possible
I
and it's
said
not
that
desirable. It's
equal
going to make
outcomes
you
aren't
miserable.
desirable. That's what I said. It's a
Yeah,
bad
it's not
social
desirable.
goal. I didn't say that women shouldn't be striving for the top or anything like that, because I don't believe that for a second.
Striving for the top, but you're going to put all those hurdles in their way, as has been in their way for centuries.
Dude, fucking, he's gonna put him there. He's gonna do it himself. Nobody's putting hurdles in your way, ladies. Life is putting hurdles in your way. Welcome to living it.
And that's fine. You're saying that's fine.
No, I really
The
think
patriarchal
I
system
really
is
think
just
that's
fine.
silly.
The patriarchy.
I do. I think that's silly. I really do. I mean, look at your situation. You're hardly unsuccessful.
Yeah, and I have
How do
battled
you
quite
manage
hard
it?
to get where I've got
Exactly.
to.
Good
So that's
for you.
okay. Battling is good. This is all
It's
about the
inevitable.
fight. But you talk about men
Why
fighting. I mean, let me
wouldn't you
just put another thing to you from the book.
Why
You're
wouldn't
saying
you have to
real...
battle for a high-quality position?
Good point. How will she respond to that?
Well, I notice in your book,
Going on to the book. Kudos.
you talk about real conversations between men containing, quote, an underlying threat of physicality.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
What about real conversations between women? Is that something, or are we sort of too amenable and reasonable?
No, it's just that the domain of physical conflict is sort of off limits for you.
Now, she of course jumps away from this almost immediately. But if you get the opportunity to hear him do that lecture, it's really amazing to kind of, like, it very much explains that female arrogance that I talk about a lot. It really does. Essentially what it is boiled down into a nutshell, and he folds the whole fucking thing out so you can see the whole picture, and it's awesome. But essentially what it is that if a man has an interaction with another man, we understand that if things go fucking south, this could come to blows. But if you're having an interaction with another woman, with a woman, you're with the understanding that if this goes south, ain't fuck all you can do. So, yeah, he lays it out pretty fucking good. Check that shit out.
Well, you
It's
just said
rather
that I
unfortunate.
fought to get where I've got.
Yeah, but not literally, you nerds.
Yeah, but
What does that make me?
well,
a sort of proxy man or
I
something?
don't imagine that to some degree, I suspect you're not very agreeable.
So that's the thing. Successful women, I'm not very agreeable.
Right.
But
I've noticed that
successful-
actually in this conversation.
Dude, I love this guy, man. I love watching him get grilled by people. Oh, god damn, it's so funny.
At least
And
we
I'm
can have
sure
a
it
joke about
served your career well.
Successful women, though, basically have to wear the trousers, in your view. They have to sort of become men to succeed, is what you're saying.
Well, if they're going
I've had to fight to succeed,
if they're
therefore
going to
I'm an
compete
honorary
against
man.
men,
See, what is they like? That seems to be very much the thing with a lot of feminists. Not all of them, some of them. But yeah, a lot of them are like it's like a jealousy thing. I want to be considered a fucking man. And good luck with that. That shit ain't never gonna fucking happen.
certainly masculine traits are going to be helpful. I mean, one of the things I do in my counseling practice, for example, when I'm consulting with women who are trying to advance their careers, is to teach them how to negotiate and to be able to say no and to not be easily pushed around and to be formidable. And you need to, if you're going to be successful, you need to be smart, conscientious, and tough.
Yeah, I'm tough. I could be tough. See, I don't need to have focus and drive and all that stuff. I just need to be smart, conscientious, and tough. Yeah, I can succeed. Ha.
Well, here's a radical idea. Why don't the bosses adopt the male bosses, shall we say, adopt some female traits so that women don't have to fight and get their sharp elbows out for the pay rises?
Because earning it is part of the journey. It's where you learn how to do the high-end job. You earn it. That's, more often than not, that's your training. Like, nobody teaches you how to be CEO of a company. They make you CEO of the company because you know how to do it. Because you've learned through earning that position.
It's just accepted if they're doing the same job, they get the same pay.
Like, I mean, do you, after seeing this interview, do you expect the same pay as some of your male counterparts? Like, maybe your station, but...
Well, I would say partly because it's not so easy to determine what constitutes the same job.
But that's because, arguably, there are still men dominating our industries, our society, and therefore they've dictated the terms for so long that women have to battle.
And how do you think they got there? And held on to it for so long? Like, King of the Mountain is a game I used to play when I was a kid. And the way you played it was, somebody ran up to the top of the snowbank and said, I'm King of the Mountain. And then somebody else ran up there to try and knock that motherfucker off so that he could be King of the Mountain. It wasn't, who can ask most politely, may I please be the King of the Mountain? That's not how it fucking works.
To be like the man.
It's not true. It's not true. So, for example...
Where's the evidence?
Well, I can give you an example very quickly.
I do love that. His preparedness is amazing.
So I worked with women who worked in high-powered law firms in Canada for about 15 years, and they were as competent and put together as anybody you would ever meet. And we were trying to figure out how to further their careers. And there was a huge debate in Canadian society at that point that was basically ran along the same lines as your argument, is that if the law firms didn't use these masculine criteria, then perhaps women would do better. But the market sets the damn game. It's like...
And the market is dominated by men.
No,
so
it's not. It's not. The market is dominated by women. They make 80% of the consumer decisions.
Oh, shit!
That's not the case at all.
If you're talking 80%. About people who stay at home looking after children, by and large, they are still women. So they're going out doing the shopping. But that is changing.
They make all the consumer decisions.
Okay, so
the market is driven by women, not men.
Right.
Okay, and if you're a lawyer in Canada...
And they still pay more for the same sort of goods. That's been proven, that men, you buy a blue bicycle helmet, it's going to cost less than a pink one. Anyway, we'll come on to that.
It's partly because men are less agreeable.
And partly because fucking bicycle helmets are for pussies.
Right, so they won't put up with it.
I want to ask you...
And bicycle helmets are for pussies.
Is it not desirable to have some of those female traits you're talking about? I'd say that's a generalization, but you've used the words female traits.
It is a generalization, though. Like, it's not as broad as she's trying to make it out to be. But yeah, generally, female traits.
Is it not desirable to have some of them at the top of business? I mean, maybe there wouldn't have
been
a banking crisis.
They don't predict success in the workplace. The things that predict success in the workplace are intelligence and conscientiousness. Agreeableness negatively predicts success in the workplace. And so does high negative emotion.
You're saying that women aren't intelligent enough to run these top companies?
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that female traits don't predict success.
Yeah, if you're going to say that intelligence is a female trait, that's kind of a people trait. Like, come on average, intelligence is a trait that everybody kind of shares. And...
But I didn't say that intelligence wasn't... I didn't say that intelligence and conscientiousness
Well, you were saying that intelligence and conscientiousness
traits.
by implication are not female traits.
By your implication. And clearly your implications are always fucked up.
No.
I mean, that's very dangerous territory.
I'm not saying that at all.
Are women less intelligent than men, by and large?
No, they're not. No, the data on that's pretty clear. The average IQ for a woman and the average IQ for a man is identical. There is some debate about the flatness of the distribution, which is something that James Damore pointed out, for example, in his memo, but there's no difference at all in general cognitive ability.
Now, for those of you who haven't been here for this lesson before, there's what he's talking about. This one right here, that's the women, the tall one, and the big, long one, that's men. Now, as you can see, in the middle, they overlap. We share an average intelligence, right? But men have wider gap, right? So women tend to cluster around the middle, whereas men have more dummies, and we also have more geniuses. Now, if you want to debate the fucking the how many geniuses are there between men and women, I believe it's like 340 something to 1. So, and this is all documented. I've done videos on this in the past. Just saying.
There's no difference to speak of in conscientiousness. Women are a bit more orderly than men, and men are a little bit more industrious than women. But the difference isn't big. But that averages into conscientiousness.
Plenty of men who aren't necessarily as
well,
industrious.
Of course.
But we'll
Yes, there's always variance in averages. It's so weird that even like why even argue that? Why does that have to?
But female traits, though, why are they not
feminine traits?
Why are they not desirable at the top of feminine traits? Why are they not desirable at the top of this?
It's hard to say. I'm just laying out the empirical evidence. Like we know the traits that predict success.
But we also know, because companies by and large have not been dominated by women over the centuries, we have nothing to compare it to. It's an experiment.
Yeah, well, you go ahead and start a company. Wish you luck.
True, and it could be the case that if companies modified their behavior and became more feminine, that they would be successful. But there's no evidence for it. I'm neither doubtful nor non-doubtful.
I'm kind of doubtful.
There's no evidence for it.
So why not give it a go, as the radical
feminists would say? Because the evidence suggests, well, it's fine. If someone wants to start a company and make it more feminine and compassionate, let's say, and caring in its overall orientation towards its workers and towards the marketplace, then that's a perfectly reasonable experiment to run.
See, that would be very nice. And I work with a lot of people that think along that lines. Why do we have to work so many weekends? Because shit needs to be made. Like, there's orders to fill. Like, that's why we got to work so many weekends. So, like, you're going to find out real quick, ladies, that when you're compassionate to your workers and you don't care if they take time off, the work doesn't get done.
My point is that there is no evidence that those traits predict success in the workplace. And there's
because it's never been tried.
Well, that's not really the case. Women have been in the workplace for, at least ever since I've been around, the representation of women in the workplace has been about 50%. So we've run the experiment for a fairly reasonable period of time, but not, certainly not for centuries.
Let me move on to another debate that's been very controversial for you. And this is, you got in trouble for refusing to call trans men and women by their preferred personal pronouns.
No, that's not actually true. I got in trouble because I said I would not follow the compelled speech dictates of the federal and provincial government. I actually never got in trouble for not calling anyone anything.
Right.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, man, the misrepresentation, dude. It's rampant, and it's bad. It's asinine. It's dumb, because it's just, all you have to do is just be like, no.
Follow the change of law, which was designed
not
to
once it was
outlaw
law.
discrimination.
No. Well, that's what they said it was designed to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I love how she throws those, through the whole interview, she throws a little shit like that in and then quickly moves on. It's Weasley tactic.
Okay. You cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
I don't think we really have a legislated right to not be offended. Like, we have a personal right to not be offended. Like, it's kind of the humane way to treat each other, but people break those kind of rights all the fucking time. But we don't really have a right to not be offended.
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. Like, you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Oh, shit!
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I have exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on. And that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there really is no way to challenge somebody if you're, like, not allowed to offend them. Like, if you can't risk offending somebody, how can you ever say anything against anything anybody says like that? It's ridiculous, and probably the reason why we don't have that right.
So you haven't sat there and... I'm just trying to work that out. I mean...
Gotcha, bitch!
Ha, gotcha.
You have got me. You have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head. Yeah. It took a while.
It did, yeah.
It took a while. You have voluntarily come into the studio and agreed to be questioned. Mm-hmm. A trans person in your class has come to your class and said they want to be called
That's never happened. And I would call them she.
So you would. So you've kind of changed your tune on that.
No, I said that right from the beginning. What I said at the beginning was that I was not going to cede the linguistic territory to radical leftists, regardless of whether or not it was put in law. That's what I said.
Yeah, it's one thing if it's person to person. It's another thing if it's mandated by law. Fuck that shit.
And then the people who came after me said, oh, you must be transphobic and you mistreat a student in your class. It's like, I never mistreated a student in my class. I'm not transphobic, and that isn't what I said.
Yeah, it's that not listening and projecting thing.
Well, except you've also called trans campaigners authoritarian, haven't you? I mean, isn't that grossly...
Well, only in the broader context of my claims that radical leftist ideologues are authoritarian, yes, which they are.
You're saying someone who's trying to work out their gender identity, who may well have struggled with that, had quite a tough time over the years.
With it, yeah.
You're comparing them with, Chairman Mao, who saw the deaths of...
No, I'm fine with trans people. Just as activists, they're the fucking assholes.
Millions of people. Well, even if the activists, they're trans people too. They have a right to say these things.
Yeah, but they're assholes, though.
Yeah, but they don't have a right to speak for their whole community.
To compare them to Chairman Mao or, Pinochet, Augusto Pinochet. I mean, this is grossly insensitive.
I didn't compare them to Pinochet.
Another amazing, brilliant fucking answer.
Well,
I did compare them to
He was an authoritarian.
He was a right-winger, though. I was comparing them to the left-wing totalitarians. And I do believe they are left-wing totalitarians.
Under Mao, millions of people died.
Right.
I mean, there's no comparison between Mao and a trans activist, is there?
Why not?
Because trans activists aren't killing millions of people?
The philosophy that's guiding their utterances is the same philosophy.
The consequences are...
Not yet.
You're saying that trans activists could lead to the deaths of millions of people?
I'm saying that the philosophy that drives their utterances is the same philosophy that already has driven us to the deaths of millions of people.
Okay, tell us how that philosophy is in any way comparable.
Sure, that's no problem. The first thing is that the philosophy presumes that group identity is paramount. That's the fundamental philosophy that drove the Soviet Union and Maoist China. And it's the fundamental philosophy of the left-wing activists. It's identity politics.
Damn right. Damn right.
It doesn't matter who you are as an individual. It matters who you are in terms of your group identity.
You're just saying these things, though, to provoke, aren't you? I mean, you are a provocateur.
I never say
You're like
anything.
the alt-right that you hate to be compared to. You want to stir things up.
I'm only a provocateur insofar as when I say what I believe to be true, it's provocative. I don't provoke. Maybe for humor,
you don't set out to
now
provoke.
And then. I'm not interested in provoking.
But what about the thing about, fighting and the lobster? Tell us about the lobster.
What the fuck?
Well, that's quite a segue.
Yeah, no shit. Give her equal pay.
Well, the first chapter I have in my book is called Stand Up Straight with Your Shoulders Back. And it's an injunction to be combative. Not least to further your career, let's say, but also to adopt a stance of ready engagement with the world and to reflect that in your posture. And the reason that I write about lobsters is because there's this idea that hierarchical structures are a sociological construct of the Western patriarchy. And that is so untrue that it's almost unbelievable. And I use the lobster as an example because the lobster... We divulged from lobsters in evolutionary history about 350 million years ago, common ancestor. And lobsters exist in hierarchies. and they have a nervous system attuned to the hierarchy. And that nervous system runs on serotonin, just like our nervous systems do. And the nervous system of the lobster and of the human being is so similar that antidepressants work on lobster.
Can you imagine that? A fucking lobster on Xanax? Like, man, these rubber bands don't even bother me anymore. This is fine.
And it's part of my attempt to demonstrate that the idea of hierarchy has absolutely nothing to do with sociocultural construction, which it doesn't.
Let me just get this straight. You're saying that we should organise our societies along the lines of the lobsters?
Where the fuck did you get that from?
I'm saying that it's inevitable that there will be continuity in the way that animals and human beings organize their structures. It's absolutely inevitable. And there is 1/3 of a billion years of evolutionary history behind that.
That's a long fucking time.
Right? That's so long that 1/3 of a billion years ago, there weren't even trees.
Jesus Christ. That's a really fucking long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah, I know.
You have a mechanism in your brain that runs on serotonin that's similar to the lobster mechanism that tracks your status. And the higher your status, the better your emotions are regulated.
I will say that, man. Like, the 1 month where I got like 800 subscribers in a month, I was riding pretty fucking high that month. That was a really good month. I was in a very good mood that whole month. And it was easy to keep it. I'll say that.
So as your serotonin levels increase, you feel more positive emotion and less negative emotion.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So you're saying, like the lobsters, we're hardwired as men and women to do certain things, to sort of run along tram lines, and there's nothing we can do about it?
No, I'm not saying there's nothing we can do about it, because it's like in a chess game, right? There's lots of things that you can do, although you can't break the rules of the chess game and continue to play chess. And your biological nature is somewhat like that, is it sets the rules of the game, but within those rules you have a lot of leeway. But the idea that, one thing we can't do is say that hierarchical organization is a consequence of the capitalist patriarchy. It's like, that's patently absurd. It's wrong. It's not a matter of opinion. It's seriously wrong.
1/3 of a billion years wrong.
Aren't you just whipping people up into a state of anger? And
not at all.
Divisions between men and women, you're stirring people up. You know, you have any critics of you online get absolutely lambasted by your followers.
Oh, and did she too? Oh, I heard that a lot of people were fucking just giving just all sorts of terrible shit to her. Like, dude, so unnecessary and so stupid, and just it's like she did through this whole interview. It just misleads, it draws off of the fucking topic.
And by me, generally.
Sorry, your critics get lambasted by you.
Yeah, I do that too. Fuck it. If you're gonna fucking say some shit to me, I'll say some shit right back to you.
I mean,
If they're
that
academics,
irresponsible?
not at all. If an academic is going to come after me and tell me that I'm not qualified and that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Especially when people tell me about their fucking diplomas. I love that shit.
So you're not going to say to your followers now, quit the abuse, quit the anger?
Well, we'd need some substantial examples of the abuse and the anger before I could detail that question.
There's a lot of it out there.
Let's take a more general perspective on that. So I've had 25,000 letters since June, something like that, from people who told me that I've brought them back from the brink of destruction. And so I'm perfectly willing to put that up against the rather vague accusations that my followers are making the lives of people that I've targeted miserable.
I don't know. After everything that happened to her, it's probably going to be tough to fucking, continue that argument, from her perspective at least. But I don't know. Hey, what are you going to do? It was a bad interview. It was destined to be a bad interview. She wanted to take the opposition to his side. And his side is very, very, very sound. And he is a very, very, very knowledgeable man. And he's very, very right when he says that the more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are. Right there is proof of it. Everything she said, everything she tried to twist, he had an intelligent, insightful response, and it was brilliant start to finish. He almost controlled the interview. She she gave him control of everything. And I don't know. I think that that's part of the reason why things are so divided right now, is because you've got that. Like he said, you're not listening. You're projecting your own beliefs onto what I'm saying. You're twisting things in your mind to turn it from what I'm saying to you into what you want me to be saying so that you can be angry about it. And that, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to deal with. I can't fathom sitting in this interview myself and not fucking flipping the shit out at some point and being like, why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep doing that? I would have fucking gone off at some point, I'm sure. But he handled it very well, and that's probably why I'm not him. He's very driven and healthy, and I'm none of those things. So, what are you gonna do? But hey, I thought it was a very interesting interview. I thought some parts of it were amazing. I learned a lot during it. Agreeableness. I gotta throw agreeableness out there sometimes. I don't know. I think it's good stuff. I think more of this kind of stuff needs to be said. You know, people need, and not just for men, for people all around. It was really disappointing to me. Every time he would go into, you know, women are great at doing this, and I coached women and they were able to do this. It was like, okay, let's get off that topic really, really fast. Every time he wanted to talk women up and say about how great women were, she wanted to go right back to women are victims. And there's the problem, man. You're not victims. You're victims of your own circumstances. You're victims because you make yourselves victims. Go out and persevere. That's what you do. Work hard. Do your shit. Succeed. Like that. There's more to it than just gimme. You just want gimme. Just give it to me. I just want to give. I want that too. I would love to make the CEO money. I don't want to have to do that fucking job, but one step's not far from the other. I don't know. It's disappointing when this sort of thing is handled so wrongly. Jordan Peterson's so good. He's got so many great ideas, and he says so many wonderful things. And you know, a situation like this, man, you really get into these topics. If she wanted to really discuss the issue, she should have really discussed the issue instead of trying to just push the agenda. And that's what really disappointed me with this, because it was just, there wasn't really a discussion. It was accusations followed by his retort. And but I think it was very good. His responses were very good. She did set him up for a couple of good questions, I think inadvertently. But whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I like Jordan Peterson. I think he's pretty cool, and I like bringing you guys Jordan Peterson stuff. I know there was one time that somebody was like, "I don't want to see you react to something." Fucking what I do. So, I don't know. We'll continue this in the comments. I have to see what you guys have to say. It's always fun, and there you go. Have a good day. This used to be me, a sad, sad puppy. No food in the fridge, holes in my pillowcase, and all out of... Recently, things have been going great. You all have helped me out a lot. Now I have a fridge full of takeout, new pillowcases, and let's be honest, I'm never out of... But the reason that things have changed around for me like that is because I've had a lot of pressure taken off of me for buying stuff, for making videos for you guys. You guys helped me buy a new capture box when my old one broke. You helped me buy a new PC when the other one turned into poop. And you helped me get to Perfect Circle concerts so that I could share that experiences with you guys. Recently I've kind of had to change the way I do things, but I found another way. You can find me on Maker's Support. I have a link in the description, and if you'd like to donate money to keep this sort of thing going, then that's where you can do it. Thank you very much. Have a good day. I hope you have fun. Bye.